It's 5 a.m. and we're on our way to Guanabacoa, a suburb of the Cuban capital, Havana. Joel Montero Herrera and his wife Yunitza are rebuilding their home. That's not the only big change here. 6 months ago, Joel started his own one-man taxi business. It's now 6 o'clock. What's Joel doing up so early, we ask? Actually, he says he's off to a late start. He has broken a headlight. Normally, he'd be on the road by 4 a.m. While he's waiting for the sun to come up, Yunitza makes him some more strong coffee. Of course, I'd rather he stay home, she says, but he has to work. I'm pregnant and I can't work, so he's got to manage for us all. Before their 5-year-old son is even out of bed, Joel tells Yunitza goodbye. It's time for work. Joel's taxi, a 1955 Chevrolet Classic. The cab cost him the equivalent of 11,000 euros. Joel borrowed the money from his father-in-law. There aren't that many taxis out yet, he tells us. It's going to be a good day. And soon enough, he's already picked up his first passengers heading toward town. Joel's new enterprise is only possible because of economic reforms in Cuba that have made it possible for small private businesses to sprout up. What will Cuba be like in 5 years, we ask? No idea, he says. And in a decade? Absolutely no idea, he says. Joel tells us the world is changing, not just in Cuba. Across the world, things are developing, and there are also some things that are getting worse. He says here in our country, things are no different. There's a lot of uncertainty. No one knows what could happen tomorrow. Hopefully, he says, our exchange rates will improve. Joel explains that Cuba has two currencies, the Cuban peso used every day by the vast majority of Cubans, and the convertible peso used often by foreign tourists to buy luxury goods. He says on a good day he can make 1,100 regular pesos, but figure in fuel costs and the exchange rate, and he's down to 10 convertible pesos in profit. That's about 10 US dollars, which means to make a living, Joel drives about 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Still, he's proud of his work and his car. It's a rolling museum. In other countries, these cars are seen as a hobby, as classics that people keep for their own pleasure. Here, it's our means of transport, our work, and our income. Thanks to these old American cars, we have work. The cars are sturdy. They're the only ones that would last this long. We leave Joel in Havana for now and head off 200 kilometers to the west to Pinar del Rio province, the world's most famous tobacco region. We're here to visit Francisco Jose Prieto and his father Pancho. They are members of a farmers' collective. Their land has been in the family for generations. Francisco Jose shows us where the leaves are hung to dry. He says the system makes more space for the women to do their work. It is mostly women who cure the tobacco leaves. Most of them have been at it for many years. Their work is especially needed during the high season from January to March. Once the leaves are cured, the Cuban state will buy up the entire harvest. And recently, the state has started paying more than it used to. For workers like 72-year-old Mirta Alvarez, that means higher wages. Good news for her and her sizable family. She says she always hoped her children would go to university, and all three managed to do it. Now all her grandchildren are at university. Of course, she's very happy about that. Now everything here is better, she says. It used to be you'd work and all you'd get was a few cents. Now she says you really see the results of your labor. Mirta tells us she gets paid twice a month. The last time she got 665 Cuban pesos, even though work had to be canceled a few times because of rain. You couldn't make that much before. Cuba's cigars are, next to sugar, the island's most important export good. Employees here say they like working for Francisco Jose Prieto. Many have come back again and again for decades to help out at harvest time. The oldest of them is in his mid-70s. Prieto says his workers are happy. A happy man is one who gets up in the morning and wants to go to work, and when his work is over, wants to go home. Everything else depends on personal happiness and a stable family life. What about you, we ask? I'm a happy man, he says. Prieto's estate is successful, and foreign tourists come here to Vuelta Abajo to see where Cuba's world-famous cigars come from. Many of them cigar aficionados themselves, and many of them from Germany. A tour guide tells his group in German that these leaves are used for pipe tobacco and cigarettes. Some of the visitors have been to Cuba before. I come here every 2 years because it's beautiful here. People are nice. There's good music and good company. What about the tobacco, we ask? Cuban tobacco is the best out there. 99.9% of the time we only smoke Cuban cigars. They still bunch all the tobacco leaves together with a kind of needle, like 100 years ago. The people have honest work. I hope that they're well paid, that there's a minimum wage. We ask another worker, Gladys Diaz, what she has to say about that. I'm still young, she says, but I did get to know capitalism for a few years before things changed. When I retired, I came back here, and I'm doing quite well here. Francisco Jose pays us well. We get to take meal breaks. They bring us coffee and cold water to drink. It's really good. Francisco Jose tells us Cuba is moving along very well. Even if the changes have been slow in coming, he says, they are very much for the better. He says you just have to go out into the streets to see the differences. Everything that's cropping up, all the new private businesses that people are building. Every day there's something new. That's changed our lives. It really has changed. It's gotten much better. One change that would be hard for me, though, is if my son doesn't take over the farm. This is our lives' work. Lunchtime. It's a break best enjoyed in the shade. The workers wait for the sun to go down a bit more before they get back to their posts. The highway back to Havana is nearly empty. In town, at a dance show, we meet up again with taxi owner Joel, his wife Unitza, and some friends of the couple. Joel has even taken the afternoon off. The four ride in Joel's Chevy along the Malecon, Havana's popular coastal route. We come here to drink a beer, sit in the sun, and enjoy the cool breeze, he says. To chat a little and forget about our troubles and our work for a little while. What kind of troubles, we ask? Joel says he's worried about getting their home rebuilt before the baby comes. Then there's the car. If anything breaks, it's a tough situation. There are no replacement parts available. Yunitsa is thinking even further ahead. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, when we're better off, we can have another kid, she says. But maybe not. Our living space is already very cramped. Joel tells us before buying his taxi, he was an economist for the Cuban state for 7 years. And at the end, he says, what could I do? Now I'm self-employed, so that I can support myself and my family. The four go for a stroll through Havana's Old Town, popular among foreign tourists. It's expensive here, Joel says. How expensive, we ask? Well, for us, it's super expensive, he says. If you take our national peso and exchange it for the convertible peso, it's clear we can't afford it here. This area is for foreign tourists. So why do they come here? To look around, he says. That's all we can do. The friends are happy to be here, even if it's just for a little daydreaming.